I'm Rufus Griscom, and this is The Next Big Idea. Today, how to grow your brain. I've been aware for a long time that I could, if I really wanted to, get in sick shape. With an hour or two of daily training, after a few months, I could probably run a marathon. I could play 5 sets of competitive tennis. I could, with sufficient maniacal discipline, develop such explosive grip strength that I could crush raw potatoes with my bare hands at cocktail parties. I've never done any of these things before. I've never even run a half marathon. I've never crushed a cooked potato. But I understand that my body is trainable. Repeatedly stressing muscles makes them larger. We know this. With the right nutrients and disciplined regime, my body could do things that would amaze me. My brain, on the other hand, I've always assumed that its capacities are gated by genetics. I'm pretty good at math. I'm pretty good with people. But I'm atrocious at remembering names. I sometimes find the eyeglasses I'm looking for on my nose. This is the brain with which I was born. But my guest today, Majid Fatoohi, says these beliefs are common misunderstandings of how our brains work and what they are capable of. In the last 20 years, there's been a dramatic change in our understanding of neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to grow new neurons, new connections. And just in the last 5 years, we've learned that your hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for learning and memory, can get substantially physically larger with just a few months of training. Majid, who teaches at Johns Hopkins, has been at the forefront of a new body of research demonstrating that lifestyle changes, tweaks to the way you exercise and eat, adjustments to your sleep and your mindset, can improve your brain health at any age. They can even reverse early-stage Alzheimer's. His new book is The Invincible Brain, and the message of the book in this conversation is that with the right lifestyle and mindset changes, you and even I can grow a bigger brain. I might even remember your name.
Today's episode of The Next Big Idea is sponsored by Granola, Incogni, Quince, and Shopify. Granola is an AI-powered notepad built for the way real people actually meet. Try it totally free for 3 months. Just head to granola.ai/idea. Incogni is the best way to protect your personal information online. To get an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan, go to incogni.com/NBI. Quince has all the wardrobe staples you need for spring. Head to quince.com/NBI for free shipping and 365-day returns. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/NBI.
Majid Fatoohi, welcome to The Next Big Idea.
My pleasure to be on your show. Thanks for inviting me.
Majid, for most of my life, I thought of intelligence as fixed, as probably mostly genetically determined. And I'm under the impression this is the default view of our society. We all know education's important, that we can learn more. We've heard about the importance of having a growth mindset. But I'm going to guess that most people listening would say that actual cognitive capacity, how fast we think, how much we can remember, is gated by our innate intelligence. Do you think most people are wrong about this assumption?
Absolutely. Our cognitive capacities can be enhanced at any age. It is true that we all have some form of innate intelligence. For example, for some of us, it comes easy to write. For some of us, it comes easy to paint or to play the piano. However, the major mistake is to think that's all we have. We all can be good at anything we want. See, our brain is made of this area called cortex, which is like a blanket that covers all other brain areas. And there's an area called the hippocampus, which is the size of your thumb, and it's very important for learning and memory. So cortex and hippocampus together mediate your cognitive abilities. And each part of the hippocampus and cortex are connected to each other and they form a network. So a network for language, a network for music, a network for being a good cook, and so forth. These networks are malleable. These networks are not fixed. They're not like computers just hardwired. And that's called neuroplasticity. Our brain can change. We can rewire our brain and we can be good at anything. Let me give you a little story. I have two daughters, both in college now. My older daughter likes physics and math and logic. And my younger daughter is more interested in philosophy and arts. And one day my younger one said, "Dad, I wish I could be as smart as Nora, the older daughter." I said, "Honey, why do you say that?" It's a big mistake for everyone to convey that if you're good at math and physics, you're smart. But if you're good at arts and being able to express yourself and present yourself or sing or solve a complicated problem or to connect with someone, those are not intelligence. Who decided that IQ tests are the gold standards? That is a huge mistake.
Yeah, it's a huge misunderstanding. I mean, of course, other humans are puzzles to be solved, and they're very complicated puzzles, right? So I think we'll get into that because it's such an interesting topic. You know, I'm interested in how much our understanding of the brain and neuroplasticity, as you've said, and the potential we have to improve, to enhance our cognitive function, how much that's changed in the last few decades. Because I remember growing up with sort of people talking about you're born with a certain number of neurons and it's finite and it's just a downward slope, right?
Yeah.
But I think, how recent is this understanding of our potential?
During the past 5 years, there has been a revolution in our field. Thanks to the imaging techniques of the brain, we can measure how your brain literally grows. Like your cortex and hippocampus can grow by 3 millimeters or 5 millimeters, literally in 3 months. I've done that for my own patients. Wow. You know, we have patients who come with cognitive decline, and we work with them intensely through what I will explain to you in a minute, 5 pillars of brain health. And 12 weeks later, we can measure quantitatively the amount of the brain that has grown. So our understanding of neuroplasticity has exploded in the past 5 years. And that's why I'm so passionate about educating the public that they need to push their brain a little further. And don't assume that your brain is going to fall apart as you get older. You can grow a better brain next year than you are now, and the following year, and so forth.
It's really exciting news. And I'm interested you say last 5 years, because I remember, I think in 2011, there, about 15 years ago, there were some studies about neuroplasticity and increasing, synaptic connections and what was possible. But the field has continued to accelerate. And you're saying the news has just gotten better.
In recent years, we have evidence for growth of new neurons in humans. See, a lot of studies about generation of new neurons, something called neurogenesis, was based on animal studies. We could, put a mouse in a cage with a running wheel, and the mouse will run. And after a month, we chop their brain, we count neurons, and we can say, oh, because there was exercise, this mouse has 1,000 or 10,000 more neurons. But what has happened in the past few years is that neurosurgeons who have to take parts of the brain out in people who have epilepsy, and the only solution is to remove the bad part of the brain, under microscope, they can see evidence of the growth of new neurons. So we have evidence for neurogenesis in humans. And we know that there are so many things that can improve brain health, increase the number of neurons, increase the number of connections, reduce inflammation, literally grow a brain. I always talk about how there's no question we can have a better physical body in 6 months. The same applies to your brain, because your brain is made up of cells. Just like your heart, your skin, your muscles. It's not like your brain is this black, mysterious box. It is mysterious still. However, we can see its neurons and connections and blood vessels and inflammation and capillaries. So I am so excited about these new discoveries. Again, that's why I wrote my book. That's why I participate in podcasts, give lectures, because we are going to a paradigm shift. We have to change our thinking about our brain. We need to change our mindset about our brain.
Yes. And among the misunderstandings that you're correcting in your book, The Invincible Brain, is the assumption that I think so many of us have thought of our brain and body as two entirely separate spheres, right? I mean, I again grew up with this sort of notion that, okay, some people have cognitive gifts, we call them nerds, and some people have physical athletic gifts, we call them jocks. I think there's almost a kind of perception that, certainly in high school maybe, that there's an inverse correlation between these two things, right? That if you are really physically, athletically gifted, you're probably not as sharp. And if you're really sharp and, you wear thick glasses and you're not as athletic or something. And part of what has changed about my perception in recent years, just reading the science and now reading your book, is understanding that this is completely wrong. That actually, like, if you want to enhance your cognitive powers, your capabilities, you have to move your body. And well, of course, we'll get into this, but really this perception that our bodies and brains are just entirely separate, uncorrelated spheres is just 100% wrong.
Yes. And the beauty of this whole system is that they work in a two-way fashion. For example, your heart is very important for your brain. Obviously, if your heart is strong, the arteries covering the heart are open, and the heart pumps well, then your brain would get ample supply of oxygen and nutrients. 20% of the cardiac output goes to the brain, even though the brain is only 2% of your whole body weight on average. Healthy heart, healthy brain. But if you have a healthy brain, you know that exercise is good for your heart. You know that stress is bad for your heart. So you manage your days in such a way to optimize your heart function. You know that greasy food, high saturated food, ultra-processed food are bad for your heart. So your brain helps your heart. The same goes with your liver. Your liver controls the amount of glucose in your body. It detoxifies things. And when it doesn't work well, the ammonia levels add up, increase, and that affects your brain negatively. And so if you want to have a healthy brain, you have to have a healthy liver. However, if you have a healthy brain and you make good decisions, you know that alcohol is bad for the liver. Alcohol is toxic to the liver. People who drink a lot of alcohol develop liver disease and end up never needing a liver transplant. So your muscles and the brain, when your muscles are strong, they increase something called myokines, such as BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a hormone that nourishes the brain. It's like a fertilizer for the brain. So more muscle, more BDNF, healthier brain. And when your brain is healthy, your brain says, hey, exercise is good for my muscles. And your brain is the organ that tells you what to do. So you go to the gym or you carry heavy weights. And every organ, your bones, your immune system, your kidney, your joint, everything is two ways.
And I think another consideration there is that we think of people, sometimes who are really physically fit, right, as sort of, oh, they want to look good or something, right? And there are these, but really, in my mind, there's nothing more important than the health of your brain. I mean, I would like to be able to move around freely and dance when I'm 95, but it's even more important to me that my brain is clear, right? And right, if you're going to choose one or the other, and although we know you don't have to choose one or the other, the two are correlated, but we know that intelligence or high cognitive function is not just associated with, it's not just like bragging rights or associated with, career success or making money or something, but it's also associated with all these pro-social behaviors of, what you call interpersonal intelligence. It's like things like treating people kindly and acting generously and being more connected, right? So the decision to take care of our brains, it seems to me, is not just a decision to sort of be more impressive, right? It's a decision to be able to navigate the world better. It's a gift to the people around you as well.
Yes, one of the most important forms of intelligence is emotional intelligence. In a world where we're surrounded with more and more AI-generated interactions. For everything you do, you just get a AI system getting back to you. Emotional intelligence is becoming more important, and your emotional experiences emanate from your understanding of the world, from your intelligence to understand what's going on around you. And if you understand really deeply, you realize that your health is so important, and you're not going to sacrifice your health for an argument. Let me give another short story about my little daughter. So the same daughter I was telling you about, who was telling me, saying I'm not so smart as the older one, she has something called meta-intelligence, which is having insight into your own thinking. And so she always talks about how she thinks and what's going on in her mind. And she says, to be happy in life is your decision, isn't it, Dad? I thought that's so profound.
Yes.
To be happy is to figure out how things are going on around you so that you create an environment so that you're happy. And so that's very profound, isn't it? And so there's happiness intelligence, which is if you're complaining about how miserable your life is, I'm sure it is if you say so, but you can put another person in your life. With all due respect, I'm not belittling people's major problems. I mean, there are major problems in people's life. Children with autism, parents with dementia, cancer, financial problems. People have problems. However, at any given situation, you can get another person in that point, and they say, "Oh my God, this is the dream life." And they would embrace that life and think it's the best thing ever. And so you really need to think. And to your point about the intelligence is not, so you get a better job. Intelligence is about figuring things out and have metacognition and have happiness intelligence. So if somebody honks their horn at you in traffic, you can fight back and scream and honk back. Or you can say, you know what? That guy's probably having a hard day. Maybe he was just fired. Maybe his wife just died. Maybe he has problems. Poor thing. And just go your way. So this is an example of happiness intelligence.
I recently had one of those days where it was just wall-to-wall meetings. And maybe like halfway into meeting 287, I realized, wait, I'm trying to be present. I'm trying to participate in this conversation, but I'm also, what was that thing that guy said 5 minutes ago? And do I need to follow up on that? And also that meeting earlier this morning, what are the next steps there? And oh gosh, did I write that down? It's overwhelming. But then I remembered it's all good because I have Granola. Granola is an AI-powered notepad that's built for the way real people actually meet. Here's how it works. You take rough notes just like you normally would. But while you're doing that in the background, Granola is securely transcribing the entire meeting. And then it takes everything and turns it into clean, structured, actually useful notes when the meeting ends. So that means you get to actually listen instead of frantically typing every word. And you still walk away knowing exactly what was decided, who's doing what, and what comes next. I remember the first time I fired up Granola, I think it was over the summer. And I was instantly blown away by the quality of the notes. I mean, they're just super well organized, they're thoughtful, they're detailed, they have action items. And I'm being completely honest when I tell you, it's only gotten better since then. If meetings are eating up your day, Granola is a no-brainer. You can try it totally free for 3 months. Just head to granola.ai/idea. That's granola.ai/idea to get your time back. Get 3 months free at granola.ai/idea.
I've started a few businesses in my life. It all started with a t-shirt business, followed by a website, followed by a dating site, followed by a podcast and a book club. And I can tell you the moment before you launch is not usually accompanied by a thunderbolt of confidence. It's more like, what if no one shows up? What if I've misunderstood the entire market? What if all of this is a really elaborate way to embarrass myself in public? But here's the thing, almost every meaningful venture feels this way at the beginning. It begins with those what ifs. And the right tools can make the leap feel a lot less lonely. That's why so many businesses use Shopify and why I'm using Shopify for my next business I'm launching. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, including 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Whether you're a household name or just getting started, Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store with hundreds of ready-to-use templates. It's also packed with helpful AI tools that can help write product descriptions, page headlines, and even improve your product photography. You can run email and social media campaigns, manage inventory, handle payments, track analytics, all in one place. And if you get stuck, Shopify has award-winning 24/7 support. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/NBI. Go to shopify.com/NBI. That's shopify.com/NBI. Well, let's talk about the actions that we can take. You mentioned your 5 pillars of brain health. If you had to rank them in order of importance, why don't we go through them one by one in what you consider to be the things for people listening, the number 1, number 2, et cetera, actions they can take to improve their brain health?
Number 1 pillar of brain health, the most important thing you could do for your brain by far is exercise. Physical exercise. Wow. Because when you exercise, you increase the number of capillaries, the number of new blood vessels in your brain. And as a result, you have more oxygen and nutrients available to your neurons. You clear inflammation, which could be because of poor diet, poor sleep, air pollution, a lot of things. You clear the inflammation, you increase BDNF levels, and you increase the number of neurons in the hippocampus. Exercise is the only intervention we know of that increases the number of neurons in the hippocampus. I mean, this is my field, so I'm always searching for something else that does that. And believe me, I teach a course at Johns Hopkins called Advances in Neuroplasticity. I give 26 hours of lectures, so I read about these things all the time. Right. And I haven't found anything else that increases the number of neurons in the hippocampus. And the more fit you are, the healthier will be your cortex and hippocampus, the better you will function now and in the future.
And your studies have shown actual physical growth of the hippocampus, which again, as you said, is critical for the storage of memories. So when we think about our ability to remember things and just general cognitive function, this is really powerful.
Yes. In a simple study, researchers put a group of volunteers into an exercise program, cycling 45 minutes 4 times a week vigorously, and they had a control group. People play football, so they were doing something, it was just not vigorous.
Yeah.
And after 12 weeks, they could see that the hippocampus size grew in all the participants in the intervention group, not in the control group. And it was in a dose dependent. So those who exercised more and increased their fitness more, they increased the size of hippocampus more. And it's so obvious that in the paper that was published, they just put 2 pictures side by side, and you just look. One is the size of your thumb, one is like a pinky. You can actually see with your naked eye, this is bigger than this. It's like before and after. And it's just 12 weeks of exercise. That's it.
Wow. Majid, it's taken me a while to admit that my mother was right about a lot of things. She listens to this podcast. And Mom, I want to give you credit here. She always said, you've got to exercise every day. And I was reluctant for decades. But what's caused me to develop an addiction, like it feels to me like a physical addiction to that daily exercise, is the clarity of mind, is the sense of alertness and mental clarity and energy. Might this be mitochondrial biogenesis? What's happening there?
One of the many things happens with exercise is the creation of new mitochondria. Mitochondria are these small factories inside each cell in your body, your skin, your muscle, your brain, your heart, everywhere. Mitochondria generate ATP, which is the energy modules in the brain, in the body, everywhere. Now, as you get older, you develop mitochondrial senescence. The mitochondria become older, they don't generate enough ATP, and they actually become a source of inflammation themselves. As they fall apart, they actually create inflammation. Now, when you exercise, your body says, hey, we need more energy, and has a system in place to increase the number of mitochondria. So you have more mitochondria everywhere. Even though your muscles are the ones doing the work, you have more mitochondria in your neurons. And that's one reason that when you exercise, your brain functions better and the brain fog clears.
What kinds of exercise do you recommend? What do you think people listening should shoot for to have these kinds of effects you're talking about?
First of all, any exercise is better than no exercise. Even if you walk for 5 minutes, that makes a biological difference in your brain. And the studies have shown that even 5 minutes of walking makes a measurable difference in your brain. Now, if you want to see real results, you need to increase your fitness or your endurance one notch. Because levels of fitness varies, like you and your coworkers and your neighbors, you all walk around, but your fitness, something that have been measured with something called VO2 max, which is a measure of stamina, a measure of endurance, is so different. So we can't say, 45 minutes of walking for everyone. If you play tennis and you run, you're much better fitness level than many people in your community. So we need to figure out next level. And the way to go to next level is to increase your stamina by one notch.
We had Peter Attia on the show talking about his book Outlive, and he's, of course, a huge exercise advocate and talks about how there's basically no upper limit to the health benefits of exercise. I have thought from other reading that, there's some inflection point, probably not one that I'm going to hit, but maybe where, like it's wonderful that people run marathons, but,
Yes.
Lactic acid buildup, there are, ultra marathon runners die earlier. There is some inflection point where it's not good for your general health or longevity. And I don't know about brain health, like how far should we go? If we're really getting into this, where's the upper limit?
One thing is clear. The benefits plateau. If you don't walk at all, your brain health is, let's say, 1 out of 10. But if you walk 2,000 steps or 3,000 steps, that already brings you to 3 or 4. And then if you walk 5,000 steps to 7,500, you're already at 6 or 7. If you walk 10,000 steps, you are at 8 or 9. But if you walk 20,000 steps a day, then it's 9.5. If you walk 40,000 steps a day, it's like 9.7. It plateaus. Now, in terms of harming yourself, I can't tell you that people who do these heavy duty things, ultramarathons, are going to die sooner. I've done triathlons myself. I just think 3 hours exercise a week is plenty. If you can squeeze 3 hours a week and push yourself a little bit, you are way ahead of the game already.
If you get to sort of 30 minutes a day kind of zone, you're getting to that sort of 90 to 95% potentially of capability. But you would say resistance training is important, lifting weights. How about high intensity interval training? Is there research on that specifically in terms of how it affects your brain?
There are many studies that have shown high-intensity interval training increases your VO2 max. And when you increase your VO2 max, your brain benefits. I want to emphasize, you don't have to go there. If you want to do it for the fun of it, I do it. I do it for the fun of it.
Me too, yeah.
But I don't have to. Walking 5,000 to 7,500 steps a day is one of the best you could do. You don't have to run a marathon. You don't have to kill yourself. You can just go for a hike with your friends, have a great time. And people who walk 10,000 steps a day reduce their risk of Alzheimer's disease by 50%. So I think if you want to do beyond, walking 2 miles a day, 3 miles a day, have a game of tennis here and there, have a game of pickleball here and there, just maintain a level of activity at baseline. Don't kill yourself.
Peter Attia told me that my tennis doesn't count because I'm training in order to play tennis.
So I would just say the 6 hours I would like from you to be the training, and then, play your sports, your tennis, racquetball, whatever outside of it.
I thought that was uncharitable. I didn't think that was very generous.
Oh, I love tennis. And I tell you, I get the best workout
Right?
in my tennis. Oh, I love it. I love
Right.
it. Yeah.
Particularly playing singles. And I'm like a puppy if you just give me a ball to chase, and it doesn't register as something. I mean, I run when I can't play racket sports, but I find it much more joyful
Exactly.
to play tennis. And it has high intensity interval training built into it. Right, because somebody
Yes.
lobs over your head, you've got to run it down. And
Oh yeah. I play tennis and I love it. And I get such a workout. I have to just pause, catch my breath. I mean, I don't ever let the ball in my net. I always zoom for the ball and
that's right.
run back. And here's another point: there are 5 pillars of brain health: exercise, sleep, diet, stress reduction, and brain training. And you want to do things that combine like 2 or 3 pillars of brain health at the same time.
So interesting.
So when you exercise and it is something you enjoy, such as tennis, you're doing physical activity and you're having a good time. So you're doing 2 pillars of brain health. And especially racket sports are considered cognitive training, because every time you improve your serve, every time you slice the ball, you're learning. You're actually using your hippocampus. So it counts as 3.
Yes. And is there something special about that? Like another example is I've heard that trail running, where you're running on a trail through the woods and there are routes and you have to, it's cognitively intense. I also find this with mountain biking or skiing, that you it takes a lot of mental engagement to do it well. Is there something special that's happening when we're doing these 2 things at the same time, engaging our brains while engaging in, intense physical activity?
Yes, you're doing 2 things at the same time because your brain needs training. So if you have to keep track of where you are, which mountain you were skiing on, which lift you're going to catch, and how did I get to that lift, you're using parts of the brain for navigation. We're talking about earlier on about networks. So there's a network for navigation. Like if you want to keep track of the terrains in a ski resort and where things are, you're using your brain to figure out where things are. And if you just arrived at a new resort and you're just going around, you just have to do a mental image of where things are. And that's brain training. Brain training is not always sitting in front of a computer and doing these brain games. It's about challenging your brain every day. Or if you go hiking in a new place and you have to keep track of where you went, anytime you're thinking and you're solving a problem, you're using your cortex and hippocampus.
Okay, so exercise is number 1. What's number 2 on your list of things we can do?
Sleep. During sleep, your brain goes through a rinsing process. Throughout the day, there are trillions of chemical reactions that take place inside your neurons. The byproducts of chemical reactions are waste, and that waste needs to be cleared from your brain. And there's a system called the glymphatic system, or the brain waste management system. For some reasons, this system works best during deep sleep. So when you're deep sleep, your brain goes through this rinsing process with each heartbeat. With each heartbeat, the fluid called CSF gets pushed through the brain from the arteries side to the venous side, and it gets collected on top of the brain and gets rinsed out. It's a beautiful system. Mm-hmm. And it works mostly 70% of the time during deep sleep. When you don't get enough deep sleep, the waste products accumulate in your brain. Like imagine a factory that the waste products don't get out of the factory. It will be a total mess. Imagine if like New York, the garbage collection doesn't happen at night for 2 weeks or happens halfway for 2 months. It's an ugly scene. And the same ugly scene inside the brain. It erodes the brain when waste byproducts accumulate. So it's extremely important that you sleep. Sleep is not a passive process. It's a very active recovery process in the brain. And you cannot cut short on the brain, on the amount of sleep you get.
I love this one because it also feels really good. I mean, it is for a lot of us. Sleep is difficult, and and as we get older, it can sometimes be more difficult. But if we take these measures, what some people call sleep hygiene, right? Like consistency of bedtimes, dark room, temperature, right? If we take all these steps, we feel better. You're smarter, right? And I don't think I fully realized how powerful this was until we were talking with Dr. Russell Foster, who's an expert on circadian rhythms and sleep, who was saying that 4 hours of sleep, if you only get 4 hours of sleep, it's the equivalent in terms of your driving capability of being drunk, of being legally drunk. So it is, if you walk through the world after having only gotten 4 hours of sleep, it's the equivalent of having had 2 or 3 or more drinks of alcohol in terms of how it impacts your ability to function. So if you're in a business meeting, you're drunk. It's not exactly correlated, but it severely impacts our mental faculties, doesn't it?
People need to realize that sleep is important and that sleep has short-term and long-term consequences. Many of my patients tell me, Dr. Fatuhi, everybody has sleep problems. Everybody's stressed out. I'm not alone. And that's not a good answer. Just because other people have a problem, it doesn't justify for you to have that problem too. It's like saying, oh, everybody smokes. Well, just because everybody makes a mistake doesn't mean you should make that mistake. And if you make this sleep a priority, then it will happen. All the things you said, you avoid caffeine in the afternoon. You make sure the room is dark and quiet. You don't use your bedroom for other things, like you don't put a computer there or you don't put your Peloton there. The bedroom should be used for 3 things: sleeping, reading, and sex. That's it. You should not have extra things going on. Your bedroom should be a serene, quiet place that your mind associates with ease and good things. And then if you exercise early in the day, some people get revved up when they exercise at night. I usually feel so tired when I exercise anytime. I just fall asleep anyway. If you're not getting enough sleep, you need to go through a checklist. And, only maybe 5 to 10% of patients have a primary sleep disorder. There are things like REM behavior disorder or restless leg syndrome. There are a small percentage of people who have a primary sleep problem. The majority of people who have sleep problems have too much anxiety. They have too many things on their minds. And there's this thing called cognitive behavior therapy that's very effective. It's the most effective treatment for insomnia, where you talk with someone about all the things in your mind and you download them somewhere, and then you have an action plan. And that way you can have peace of mind and you can sleep. So if you have sleep issues, whether it's insomnia or sleep apnea, which, when you snore and your brain doesn't get enough oxygen, you need to talk with a healthcare professional, ideally a sleep specialist.
And as you said, it's sleep has a short-term impact as well as a long-term impact. Data shows that the long-term impact is profound, right? Can you speak a little bit to what the research shows in terms of correlation between less sleep and dementia?
So remember I told you the hippocampus size of your thumb roughly? When people sleep fewer than 6 hours a night, we call that insomnia. And when people have insomnia for 1 or 2 years, the hippocampus shrinks a little bit. But if you have had insomnia chronically for 20 years, your hippocampus is almost half of its original size. And your risk of Alzheimer's disease is 2 or 3 times higher. So poor sleep is one of the main risk factors for dementia.
So exercise is number 1. Sleep is number 2. What's number 3?
Nutrition. The food you eat is like medicine. Ideally, you need to eat healthy food, fruits, vegetables, some salmon, some chicken, some legumes, nuts, water. That's a healthy diet. People who eat highly processed food, ultra-processed food like donuts and cookies and muffins that are poorly prepared, and people who eat things that are high in trans fats like low quality pizzas and things that are high in trans fats, and things that are spike your sugar levels, things like ice cream or sugary treats that spike your sugar level, are all harmful for the brain. They increase inflammation. They cause something called insulin resistance. And that is horrible for the brain. It increases inflammation. When I teach my courses, I have one favorite slide that I show my students, which is a picture of a mouse brain before and after 4 weeks of high sugar diet. They just put sugar most days just for 4 weeks. And when you put them together, imagine a tree full of branches and leaves and a tree that has almost no branches and no leaves. That's how the neurons, how strikingly different they are. They just lose their synapses. They lose their points of contact with other neurons. It's horrible. And to me, eating a poor diet is like smoking. You should just avoid it. And there are hundreds, not dozens, hundreds of studies that have shown that a healthy brain is associated with a larger hippocampus, better brain function now, and reduced risk of dementia decades later. That's a very obvious one, and that's something that people have control over. See, exercise is hard. You have to get ready. You have to find time. And then sleep. Sleep is not something you just put your head and go sleep. It's hard. You have to create an environment where your brain finds calm enough to just go through this transition. It's hard, to be fair. But eating is you and the food,
Right.
And it's the choices you make. And if I told you there's poison in this food that's going to kill you, you will not eat it. You will not touch it. And so you have to realize that what you do every day adds up over years. So if you do something good every day, your brain health improves, your hippocampus gets larger, your cortex functions better over decades. And if you have poor habits, your brain shrinks a little bit every day. Your brain literally shrinks every day with poor dietary habits and lifestyle choices. So it's not like you ate the donut today and that's the end of it. No. If you're eating donut and cookies and sugary sodas every day you're eroding your brain just a little bit. So don't eat junk food. Try to eat a Mediterranean diet. If you're a vegetarian, that's fine. Just make sure you have enough B12 in your diet. And if you like keto diet, that's fine. Just stick with it. Don't eat, if you eat fat, eat a high quality fat like salmon and grass-fed meat and, good quality meat. Good quality keto is the poor quality junk food that's bad for the brain. As long as you don't eat junk food, I'm happy.
And this is an area where I think that there is a cultural transformation that's going to need to happen in the next 10 or 20 years in this country, right? Because like you said, it's like smoking. I mean, when you really look into the numbers, right? Since I was a child, the perception we have in our society of smoking has changed a lot, right? It used to be cool. Now it's not cool. You have to stand in a special corner. It's like it's not, because people are saying, why would you want to hurt yourself? We don't think about French fries and donuts quite in the same way because we think of, it seems to me, cupcakes and donuts is like, joy, and it's what your mother gives you, cookies, and it's like, what you do because you love someone. So we have a lot of positive associations with, cookies and donuts and French fries. And when you say, I don't eat French fries, people think, oh, you're no fun. You're just trying to look good. You're vain or whatever. But I think we need a reorientation. Like this is, inflammation. Inflammation, by the way, doesn't only hurt your brain. It causes cancer. It does everything bad, right? So I think people need to start to realize, like, in a restaurant, you have to say, I'd like a salad instead of fries. It should be the other way around, right? It should be like, no, your sandwich comes with a salad. Mm-hmm. And if you want to choose French fries, which is kind of like smoking a cigarette, you have to be, so would you agree with me that we need a cultural change in our society? Most people don't understand how profound the negative impact is of eating the wrong food.
I think that paradigm shift has started. In my conversations with people, I hear more and more people saying that they understand the importance of healthy diet and they understand that ultra-processed food It's like smoking. Let me give you a story. In 1950s, doctors felt that your heart only beats so many times in a lifetime. So you don't want to necessarily exercise too much because then you run out of how many times your heart beats.
Yeah.
And they had evidence from some people with marathon who had died. Some marathon runners had died and say, see, you exercise too much, you die. Now, some people die of every sport, but they used that as an example. And it was actually the Eisenhower's cardiologist, Dr. White, who said, wait a minute, activity is good for you. Around the same time, there was an article published that compared the heart attack frequency among bus drivers and bus conductors. Bus conductors who went up and down the steps in London and collected tickets and went in and out had far fewer heart attacks than bus drivers who were just sitting all day. And then people say, hey, wait a minute, maybe moving is a good thing for you. It was a surprise. In 1986 or something around that time, there was an article on front page of New York Times that said, some cardiologists believe exercise is good for you. It was so controversial back then that some cardiologists are actually going away from the whole crowd of cardiologists and recommending exercise. And of course, nowadays, we say, what? Of course, exercise is good for you. It's obvious. And I'm sure that 20 years from now, people will look back at us and they say, it was even 2026 and people were still debating whether the food they eat makes a difference in their brain. What were they thinking? And so I can see the shift has started.
Yeah.
And that 20 years from now, there won't be any cookies. There won't be any Dunkin'. So Dunkin' Donuts has changed its name to Dunkin'. The donut is gone. And, more and more places serve only healthy food, only salads, for example. So I am very positive and hopeful that people will catch on and it will not be cool anymore to order French fries.
Yeah, and so we know, and you've listed them, we know the good foods to eat, the fatty fishes and leafy greens and berries and seeds and nuts. But are there some specifically for positive brain impacts? I think you mentioned things like extra virgin olive oil, turmeric, eggs, dark chocolate. Are there things like that stand out to you that have specific impacts on the brain?
Yeah, so among all the options, my favorite is all blueberries because blueberries high on BDNF. Small group of fruits have high BDNF levels. Dark chocolate has cocoa in it, and cocoa has been associated with increased circulation. Another favorite of mine is yogurt, Greek yogurt particularly, because it's high in probiotics and it's very healthy for the GI tract, for GI system. And I also like beets. They're increasing oxygenation and relaxed blood vessels in the brain. I love pomegranates, which is another thing associated with increased circulation in the brain. And then those are my favorites. But the rule of thumb is don't eat junk food. If you do that,
right, yeah.
If you do that, the selection of options you have is so broad, and every fruit, like avocado, has its own benefits, and oranges have their own vitamins, and cucumbers, they have their own things, and zucchini has its own things. The simpler, the more natural it is, the better it is.
My strategy has been to identify foods that are super healthy that I love to eat and just fill myself with them. Because then when I'm presented with the potato chips, and as I invariably am, I'm full. And so like one example of this is I found wild Maine blueberries frozen. They're cheaper and they have, the wild ones are even better. Frozen. You can heat them in the microwave in a bowl and add probiotic yogurt with no sugar, no added sugar, and seeds and nuts on top.
Mm.
You don't need it. You don't need any honey. You don't need anything else, right? And it's delicious. There's plenty of sweetness in the blueberries, and you've got the yogurt, you've got the seeds, you've got the nuts, you've got the blueberries, and it's delicious. So if you can find whatever it is, whatever appeals to you, that's in this category of healthy food, and just eat it every day, right?
So one trick, if I may say so, I use is to eat food that are satiating and they keep you full for a longer period of time so you don't get hungry. See, if you eat a donut or a cookie, your sugar spikes, your insulin level goes up to keep up with the sugar. But because it spikes, the insulin spikes, but the sugar gets put away quickly, and then insulin levels take a while to get out of your bloodstream. During that period where insulin is high and sugar is taken away, you're hypoglycemic. Your body says, hey, I'm hungry, because your sugar levels are below normal. So you're craving and you have a sugary soda. Your sugar levels spike, insulin spikes, you're hypoglycemic again. So you want to avoid sugary things as much as possible. And the one thing I eat in the morning is oatmeals. I have some oatmeals, I add some blueberries, I actually add a banana and some milk and some raisins, and it keeps me full until like 3 or 4. I have usually like a bowl of small cup of yogurt for lunch, and then I eat dinner around 5 or 6. So I eat very little in terms of calories, but I don't feel hungry most of the day.
Am I allowed to have just a few glasses of wine a week, Majid?
Yes, that's what I do. First of all, we need to be fair. We need to enjoy life. You don't want to have too restrictive of diet or exercise. You need to enjoy life. So if I see ice cream, I have 1 spoon. I don't say I don't want it at all, because face it, it's delicious. There's some ice creams are just delicious. Or if I see tiramisu, I'll have 1 spoon or 2 spoonful, teaspoon. The same goes with wine. If you do everything right, you're entitled to enjoy your glass of wine. Now, if you don't exercise, you don't eat right, you don't sleep well, everything is a mess, then no, you can't have a drop of alcohol. This is what I told my patients. I said, listen, not a drop of alcohol, nothing. If you don't exercise, don't sleep well, have a terrible diet, a drop of alcohol is not allowed. However, show me that you're working toward your goal, and then you can have a glass of wine a week. So it's like a reward for good work.
Oh, only 1 a week?
No. But if someone like you who plays tennis and runs and everything else, like I personally drink about 3 or 4 glasses a week. We have social gatherings, so Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah.
Maybe I have 1 or 2 glasses on Friday or 1 or 2 glasses on Saturday. And I tell you, I don't enjoy it as much as I used to. I just do it as a social mingling. So I think alcohol is not good for you. However, if you do everything right and you enjoy that glass of wine, you've earned it. So it's not going to kill you. It's not going to shrink your brain. It's not going to, make you get develop dementia if you've done everything else right.
I have been called a clothes horse. And you know what? I take it as a compliment. Because when you're wearing beautiful clothes, you actually feel a little more comfortable, a little more confident. Lately, my go-to brand has been Quince. I'm actually wearing one of their linen short coats right now. The fabrics are elevated, the fits are clean, everything just works without being fussy. Quince has all the wardrobe staples you need for spring. Think 100% European linen shirts and shorts from $34. They're lightweight, they're breathable, they're comfortable, but they still look really put together. And one of the things I love about Quince is that everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. Quince works directly with ethical factories, cutting out the middleman so you can get premium clothing without the markup. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/NBI for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada, too. That's QUINCE.com/NBI for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/NBI.
Have you ever had a scammer call you on the phone? I have. They don't lead with a lie, they lead with the truth. They know your address, your kid's school, your middle name. They got that info for $2 from a data broker. It's time to take that truth off the market. This marketplace of people reselling your personal information isn't just annoying, it fuels identity theft, relentless spam, and even physical safety risks. And this problem isn't getting smaller. I get more and more of these calls, and the acceleration of AI is only empowering these scammers. Trying to remove the data yourself would take hundreds of hours of manual requests. That's where Incogni comes in. Incogni is an automated service that handles the exhausting work for you. They reach out to hundreds of brokers and people search sites to get your information taken down, and they keep it down with regular follow-ups. They are the only personal data service verified by Deloitte, so you can trust that they actually deliver. Take back your privacy and get total peace of mind. To get an exclusive 60% off an annual Incogni plan, go to incogni.com/NBI or click the link in the episode description box. That's incogni.com/NBI, because they can't harm you if they can't find you. Okay, so we've covered exercise. We've covered sleep. We've covered nutrition. What's fourth on your list?
The fourth is the mindset, a mindset that reduces stress. Stress increases cortisol levels. Cortisol levels are like a poison for hippocampus. And people who have high cortisol levels chronically have a much smaller hippocampus in a dose-dependent manner, which means more stress, more cortisol, smaller hippocampus. And there are many ways to deal with that. The most important one is mindset. You choose to be happy. You decide from the time you wake up what kind of day you're going to have. One of the things I recommend to people, and I do myself, when I wake up in the morning, when I open my eyes, I don't jump out of the bed and run. I just stay in bed and think about the day ahead and what things that need to be done. And I picture them going well. Like, today I'm going to have a conversation with Rufus. It's going to be the best podcast I've had so far. Or, I've been working so much. This afternoon, I'm going to take a nap. It's going to be so wonderful. And by the way, I'm so lucky to have the life that I have. I published a book. My life is good. My daughters are good. I'm so fortunate. So I start my day on a positive note. And it's interesting that if you get up in the morning and say, damn it, I have such a busy day, and you just check your, Instagram, whatever, and you take a quick shower and you just run, you get in the car, you have some coffee in the car, and you're always running behind, you're setting yourself up for a bad day from a get-go. And it's very important to start your day with some reflection and some things like, I'm so good. I have worked so hard in my life to be where I am, and I deserve credit for all the things I've done right. People think about, damn it, why didn't I do that? Damn it, why didn't why didn't send that email?
Yeah.
Only if that's a waste of time. What's done is done. Whatever has happened, you should ask yourself, what next? Not what should have happened, could have happened, must have happened, what people should do, what people can do, what this. No. What next? What is the next thing I can do to have a happy life? Another mindset is to say to yourself, I can do anything. You can be good at anything. And your experiences in the past determine your expectations for the future. So don't limit yourself with what you have done in the past. Realize that you can do so much more with the goal of being happy, not just work your butt off, but be happy. Figure out what things are going to yield more happiness for you, not necessarily more money. I mean, money is good because it facilitates happiness. But if you're miserable with a job or miserable doing things you hate, such that you have more money so you can go on a vacation, it's not a good trade-off. So the other second mindset is to think that I can be good at anything, and I'm going to be good at a lot of things with the goal of being happy.
And so the first thing you were describing there is a sort of stress reduction, right? That we know that too much cortisol in the brain is no bueno. This is not good for brain health, right? On a long-term basis. But the second thing you're identifying there is that actually, as you say, what we believe about our capabilities has a surprising level of importance. So one of the things that you write about is how so many of us fall into this habit of saying, oh, I'm not good with names. I have a terrible memory. And then you think to yourself, oh, my brain is declining. How much of a problem is it for us to recite those things to ourselves again and again?
That's the most common mistake I hear. Every day I hear people telling me, I'm not good with names. Now, as long as you say that, next time you meet someone and his name is Rufus, so I'm not going to remember the name. So you already have defeated. You already accepted defeat that you're not going to remember that name. Oh, by the way, your name is easy to remember.
I know. That's a problem for me, Majid, because everybody remembers my name and then I forget theirs. It's a problem.
So, see, what you just did it. You yourself did
Yes,
it.
I did.
You just did
You're
it.
right, yes.
See,
I have this problem. Yeah.
Once I was giving a lecture to like 3,000 people, I said, all of you who have difficulty remembering names, raise your hand. Only 3 people didn't. And it reflects the idea that everything it's a problem. They don't realize it's not a problem. It's a common thing. And now the thing you have to do is you have to say to yourself, I'm good with names. What if I told you I give you $10,000 for every name you memorized? Do you think you'll memorize more names? I mean, $10,000 in cash, like $100 bills. You memorize my name, Majid Fatuhi. Majid Fatuhi. I'm going to ask you that 10 minutes from now. And if you remember it, I give you $10,000. I actually do that in my lectures. I say, whoever remembers the spelling of my name at the end of my lecture will get a prize. And I spell it for people. And at the end of the lecture, I ask, and almost everybody remembers it. It's because I made a point. I spell it for them, and I say, remember it.
Yeah.
And I actually ask the crowd, okay, say Majid Fatuhi. And everybody says Majid Fatuhi. And then at the end, everybody remembers it. So you have to start by saying, I'm good with remembering names. Then when you meet somebody, you tell yourself, $10,000 is a lot of money. I'm not going to lose. So when you ask the person their name, you actually repeat it and memorize it. So you make their name the point of the conversation, especially if it's an uncommon name like Majid. If you meet someone like Majid, it's okay to say, Majid, can you spell your name? And I say, M-A-J-I-D. Oh, Majid. Okay, Majid, nice meeting you. You actually say the name. A lot of times, people feel hesitant because they don't want to butcher the name. They don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to say Majid, magic. And because of that, they never say the name. And because they don't say it, the next time they see the person, they say it was Ma something. So you start with saying, I'm going to memorize the name. When they tell you, you repeat the name. And throughout the conversation, without overdoing it, you say the name. Like Majid, where do you live? You actually say it a few times randomly, not, again, don't overdo it. And here's the most important thing. At the end of the conversation, you ask, what is this guy's name? Chances are you have forgotten it because as you talked, different topics came out and the name may have not been fully consolidated. And here's what you need to do. You say, without any shame, say, could you please tell me your name again? I know you already told me 3 times and you asked me to spell my name as Majid, but you are in training. Like when you go skiing, you don't ski perfectly black diamonds the first time around, you fall. And this is what you need to do. For the first 10, 20 names, at the end of the conversation, you ask, I'm going to get $10,000. What is this guy's name? If it's not there, you ask. And because you're embarrassed, you will remember that name. We remember things that are highly emotional. And so if you get embarrassed by asking me to tell you my name after a whole conversation, you will never forget my name again. And you do that 4 or 5 times, you get good at it. With practice, you get good at it. The most important thing is this. Don't say I'm not good with names.
And I think this is part of why you emphasize the importance of, I mean, there are a lot of people who find themselves just saying, I'm just not as smart as other people in the room, right? I didn't get as high an SAT score as that other person or whatever. And I think we have a problem as a culture of having this view that there's a single yardstick that measures intelligence. And it's just not true. And it does a terrible disservice, I think, to a lot of people, right? I mean, this I think is important for everyone to reflect on the breadth of different types of intelligence and appreciate the strengths they have and continue to build on those strengths and then build on the weaknesses as well. I mean, because our brains are neuroplastic, we can grow.
Absolutely.
What would you say about the breadth of different kinds of intelligence that people maybe don't appreciate?
Well, you pointed out and you articulated it so well. We can't have the same yardstick for every type of intelligence. And this is not academic. This impacts people's lives. Because if you're in high school and you didn't get a good ACT, which only measures certain things, like an ACT or an IQ test doesn't measure your ability to have empathy for people. And as a doctor, it is incredibly important to have that sense of empathy. So, do you want a nerd who can, rehearse all the facts the same as AI can, or a doctor who actually listens to you and connects with you? So when people are told that they're not smart and their IQ score is very low, they're not going to challenge themselves. They are going to ask for low-level jobs because they feel like they're not smart. So these labeling of intelligence as having a good IQ has very harmful effects for our society. Think of millions of kids who are not flourishing their brain because they're told they're not smart. And, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy that's happening, and you should not be a victim of it. You should appreciate that there are at least 30 different types of intelligence: emotional intelligence, book intelligence, nature intelligence, happiness intelligence, lifestyle intelligence, and so forth. Every person is different, and you get high marks for some and low marks for others, which is fair. Everybody's good at some things.
Yeah.
And the things you're not good at, you can get good at. There was a title of an article I never forget about neuroplasticity, and the title of the article is Practice Makes Cortex.
Right.
The cortex and the hippocampus are the underlying brain tissue for intelligence, for different types of cognitive capacities. And the more you practice, the different networks in these two brain areas grow, literally grow, and they become stronger. So do yourself a service, have a positive mindset about your own capacity, and realize you can be good at anything.
When we talk about mindset, you also talk about the importance of having a sense of purpose. And you reference a study in which you say that having a strong sense of purpose in life was associated with a 19% reduction in cognitive impairment and dementia.
That's right.
That's really interesting. So how do we explain that?
For some reason, and the science of it is still not fully understood, when you have a sense of purpose, when you say, I feel passionate about helping my grandchildren become successful. I feel passionate about being a good husband, a good father, or a good son. Or I feel passionate about politics. I feel passionate about changes in the environment, the climate, whatever. Something that you feel passionate about that most other people may not care about. Like my field is brain health, how to improve people's mindset about aging, longevity. These are the things I find exciting. And my purpose is to educate the world about it. So you talk to me about that, I'll talk about the hours. But ask me about interest rate or, what's going on in Venezuela or somewhere else. I know about it, but I wouldn't go on and on talking about it. That's not my purpose. That's not my thing. For everyone, that thing is different. And if you don't have a clear purpose in mind, you can find it. You can discover it. So studies have shown that people who have a sense of purpose in life have a reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease. They sleep better, they stress less, and they live longer, 6 to 10 years longer on average. So exactly what happens is being studied, but there's clear evidence that having a sense of purpose in mind is one of the 3 mindsets that are essential for brain health. So the 3 mindsets for brain health are sense of purpose. The second one is a growth mindset, which is I can be good at anything. And also having a positive mindset, which is when you wake up in the morning, expect good things to happen.
Okay. And then finally, brain training, I think, is the 5th, is what remains among your 5 pillars of brain health. And briefly, what are the best things people can do to train their brains?
Things that are difficult are things that are challenging your brain and are good for you. So if you're trying to figure out how to fix something that's broken in the garage, or if you're trying to figure out the names of the birds in your backyard, or if you're trying to put together a podcast and preparing for the person you're interviewing, or if you're trying to cook something and you have to figure out what to buy and how much of it to buy and the order of things that need to be done in order to prepare a delicious meal, anything that challenges your brain grows your brain. So my recommendation is find something that you enjoy, whether it's reading a book, creating a new project, starting a new hobby, take dance lessons. Find something you enjoy and do them. Pick an area you like and challenge it and see that it improves.
That's right. And things like, one of the things I was interested to read is that things like practicing deep focus, right? We all are afflicted by too many notifications and distractions, and there's all kinds of horrifying data about how short our attention spans have become. But if we really push ourselves to develop the ability to focus on a single deep, intensive task for 20 plus minutes at a time, it will get easier the next time, right? These are skills that can be developed.
Yeah, it is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain your focus in a world where everything happens quickly. In the social media platforms, the posts just move on so quickly that our brains becoming used to things just going quickly, and people are finding it difficult to sustain attention to read a book. Now, there are things you could do to combine practicing your ability to focus with stress reduction. And a simple exercise, very practical, very easy, is to do a 2-minute breathing exercise where you just sit down, you take a deep breath for the count of 6, you hold it for the count of 3, and you breathe out for the count of 6. And throughout these 2 minutes, you only pay attention to the air going to your nostril. Even once, doing it once calms your shoulder muscles, relax. And I do it to my students, and we do it like 2 or 3, and the whole class calms down, Because all the students are all nervous, they're preparing for exams. And just 3 cycles, I can just feel the whole room calms down. And so this is an example that combines 2 pillars of brain health. It combines sustained attention, which is a brain thing. You have to sustain the attention that for 2 minutes, you'll not think about anything else, and you're focusing the attention to the air flowing to your nostrils. That's brain work. And then you're breathing slowly, and that improves your heart rhythm. There's this thing called heart rate variability biofeedback, which means your heart is healthier when there's some variability in beat to beat.
Yeah.
One is 1 second, one is 0.9 second, one is 1.1 second. That variability means that your system is working optimally and everything is good. And so by setting that heart rate variability, the message goes to your vagus nerve, to your brain, and sets the activity in your brain. So now your brain is becoming calmer. That's one of the things that's really helpful for longevity, for having less stress today, for thinking clarity, for reducing cortisol. And that's one of the best and simplest things you could do for your brain health every day.
Well, Majid, so many of us have parents, if we're lucky to still have parents. So many of my friends have watched their parents and loved ones experience cognitive decline in their later years. And obviously, everything we've talked about today, your 5 pillars of brain health, are helpful for people at any age to improve their brain functioning. But you also point out that in the near term, for folks listening, when we think about the capabilities we'd like to have when we're 85, hopefully 90, 95, if we're so lucky, all the things we do now to improve our cognitive capabilities help us build up what you call cognitive reserves. Can you speak to this and why it's not just about trying to become mental gymnasts and, incredible today. It's also about this sort of long-term glide path of our aging process.
It's very simple. Your brain is made up of cells. neurons. And the neurons have these axons, these tails, and at the end of it have synapses, and they connect with other neurons. The number of synapses determines your cognitive capacity. How many neurons you have, how many synapses you have, determines your ability to function at your best. If you have 10% more brain reserve, your brain is functioning 10% higher. Throughout life, you want to increase that retirement fund for your brain. Your brain is the biggest asset, and think of it as an asset that you want to grow so that you have more money in retirement ages. So every day, you have an option to either let these synapses wither, shrink by things like poor diet, poor sleep, untreated medical problems. They literally erode the number of synapses. And if you every day make these 5 pillars of brain health a part of your daily routines, you don't eat junk food, you don't stress too much, you keep moving every day, you take advantage of opportunities to challenge your brain, you do a 2-minute breathing exercise. They're simple, but they're part of your daily routine. Every day you're investing in your brain fund. So when you get to your 80s, you have a huge brain fund. And if there are things like plaques and tangles that erode some of it, you still have such oversupply of these that you function. Remember, it is possible to have plaques and tangles of Alzheimer's disease in your brain and have no symptoms if your brain is healthy and strong otherwise. So to me, that's a no-brainer. You need to increase the number of your brain reserve, the number of synapses and neurons. And if you do that over time, you have a huge amount of brain reserve, cognitive reserve, and you'll be resilient against the effects of Alzheimer's disease in your brain.
And Alzheimer's, as you point out in the book, is not as simple. I think a lot of people think of it as just one disease with which you're afflicted because of a genetic proclivity or something else. But you point out it's not as simple as that. It's really maybe the way we describe cognitive decline. And do you want to speak to that?
I think the scientific discovery that amyloid plaques and tau tangles are important in brain has hindered the progress in our field because many of my colleagues have not taken advantage of all the other things that affect the brain and that can be treated. See, your brain with aging develops a soup of problems. It includes inflammation, reduced blood flow, impairment of that lymphatic waste management system, those 3 things. And then you have these amyloid plaques and tau tangles, which describe the disease. Any 80-year-old who has memory problems has various degrees of these 5 or 6 problems. But the 3 things, the inflammation, the blood flow, and waste management, are due to your lifestyle choices. And if you fix these other things become minor issues. So I think it's important for people to realize that their lifestyle factors determines whether or not they develop Alzheimer's symptoms. See, Alzheimer's symptoms are confusion and memory problems. Alzheimer's pathology is plaques and tangles. But in order to have the symptoms, you need more than the plaques and tangles. You need inflammation, blood flow, and waste management problems. So the problem in our field has been that we equate part of the problem with all the symptoms. With HIV, it's very simple. You have HIV disease, you have HIV symptoms. But with Alzheimer's symptoms are due to a soup of problems. Many different things, 2 of which are unique to Alzheimer's. And if you address all the lifestyle matters, you take care of 3 of the 5 things, and you will not have the symptoms.
My final question for you, Majid, looking forward, we obviously live in an extraordinary time of discovery and revolutionary new medicines. What do you expect that we're likely to see in the next 10 or 20 years in terms of breakthroughs in maybe Alzheimer's drugs or perhaps even memory enhancing or drugs that help enhance all of our cognitive functions?
I'm very optimistic about the future. I think in the future, Alzheimer's will be treated much the same way we handle diabetes or heart disease. In other words, Alzheimer's is not this dreadful disease that you either get or you don't get. Alzheimer's is a spectrum. And just like with diabetes, we have many interventions to prevent diabetes. I mean, it's clear that you can prevent diabetes if you eat a low sugar diet and low carb diet and exercise. You really minimize your risk of diabetes, even if it runs in your families. Then, if somebody has diabetes, we have ways of managing it. There are, these GLP-1 agonist medications have been wonderful, and there are lots of other medications that address the comorbidities with diabetes. And even if some severe diabetes and with complications, we have treatment for diabetic retinopathy, diabetic neuropathy, and so forth. So diabetes can be addressed at every stage, from the early stages, pre-symptomatic, to the worst stages. And for each of them, we have a lot of interventions. And that's going to be Alzheimer's 10, 20 years from now. It's not going to be, I have Alzheimer's end of my life. We're going to talk about Alzheimer's the same way we talk about diabetes. And there should be a lot of emphasis on prevention and a lot of emphasis on early stages of Alzheimer's disease. I think by the time somebody doesn't know what year it is, or they don't recognize family members, I think that's too late. I don't think we can do much for a person like that. But there are lots of things we could do to prevent and handle early stages of Alzheimer's disease. Last week, I gave a lecture to 5,000 neurologists at the American Academy of Neurology. And my lecture is about my research that shows that lifestyle interventions are more powerful than the new drugs for Alzheimer's disease for patients with early stage Alzheimer's disease. So people who are in early stage Alzheimer's disease have the option of taking medications that have recently been approved by FDA, or do things like my 12-week program. And programs that combine lifestyle interventions are far more powerful than these new drugs. And so we already know that you can reverse the early stages of Alzheimer's disease, and the most powerful intervention is lifestyle programs that combine diet, exercise, sleep, and brain training. So we're already there. We already know that we can reverse the early stages of Alzheimer's disease, and there's a lot of excitement in my field for good reasons.
Well, if we put all these lifestyle interventions in a pill, it would be far and away the most powerful pill available. We don't have it in a pill, but we do have it in a book. It's called The Invincible Brain, and it's available. And thank you, Majid Fatui, for being with us today. Hopefully, because I've resolved that I'm not bad with names. I'm working on. I'm a work in progress, developing superior name recollection. Hopefully, I pronounced your name correctly, yes. Majid Fatui.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
And that's our show. If you enjoyed this one, we've got a whole bunch of episodes about sleep, diet, exercise, nutrition, brain health, with guests like Eric Topol, Zeke Emanuel, Tim Spector, Peter Attia, and Lisa Feldman Barrett. There's a Spotify playlist containing a dozen episodes in the show notes. Have a look at it. Together, they add up to a masterclass for better health. As you may have heard, we recently selected Inside the Box by David Epstein as our book of the season. That means if you join now, we'll send you a copy of the book that you can read alongside other members. You'll also receive an invitation to a private conversation with David, who'll be joined by our team and our curator, Daniel Pink, access to our WhatsApp, where Caleb and I are chatting with listeners, and lots of other perks. Right now, podcast listeners can get 20% off a membership. Just go to nextbigideaclub.com and use the code podcast at checkout. I hope to see you in there. Today's episode was produced by Caleb Bissinger and mixed by Mike Toda. I'm Rufus Griscom. See you on Thursday.